Now that you have mastered creating pivot tables, let's have a look at two great tools which can help you to filter your data: slicers and timelines. Slicers and timelines are connected to individual pivot tables and pivot charts, or they can be connected to multiple pivots, as they are in this example. In this worksheet, we have a pivot table over here on the left and two pivot charts, which have been created from the data on the previous sheet tabs. On the bottom right, we have a slicer that allows us to filter the pivots by country, even though we don't have a country field displayed in either of our pivot charts or in the pivot table. When I click on New Zealand, the pivots are recalculated to display just the information for New Zealand. To clear the filter, click on the funnel in the top right-hand corner, and all the information returns. Over here in the middle, we have a timeline. Timelines let us filter the pivot table and charts by time. We can click to filter by individual months, or we can click and drag to see a range of months. The time period can be changed in the top right-hand corner, allowing us to view the timeline as months, quarters, or years. I'm going to keep mine as months. To return all of the data back to our pivots, click on the Clear Filter button, and that returns all of your data. Creating slicers and timelines is easy. Let's create another slicer for products so you can see how this is done. Click inside one of the pivot charts, go to the Pivot Charts Tool tab, and select Analyze. From the Analyze tab, we're going to be clicking on Insert Slicer. Tick the field that you would like to use. For us, we're going to be using Product, and then click OK. A slicer for products is created. We can resize and drag the slicer as required on our worksheet. And that is all there is to it. Now when we press any of the buttons, for example the MR product, the pivot chart on the left changes accordingly to show only the profits related to the MR products. And we can see that Sydney has generated the biggest profit out of all the cities for the MR products. Notice that the pivot chart on the right, the pie chart, has not changed, nor has the pivot table on the left. This is because the slicer is currently only connected to the pivot chart on the left, this one over here. To connect the slicer to these other pivots, we right mouse click over the product slicer and select Report Connections. You'll see that the first pivot chart from the worksheet is ticked. We now just need to tick the second pivot chart and the pivot table. Then click OK. Now when we press a product from the slicer, all of the pivots are filtered. What about timelines? I'm going to delete this timeline and we can have a go at recreating the timeline ourselves. To create a timeline, click inside one of the pivot charts. Go to the Pivot Charts Tool tab and select Analyze. From the Analyze tab, we're going to click on Insert Timeline. Select the date field that you're after, and then click OK. That creates the timeline for us. We can click and drag it to its location and resize it as required. Connect it to the second pivot chart using the same technique we used for the slicer. Right mouse click, Report Connections, select the other two pivots and click OK. Now when we click on any of the time buttons, our pivots and pivot tables adjust accordingly. That's all there is to it. Have a go at using slicers and timelines to create your own dashboards and take your reporting to the next level.